Well, good afternoon. It's actually early afternoon, and welcome to Wareham Forest again. I've come back here because for two reasons. Firstly, I want to do a video for everyone that's looking to start out in large format photography, and I'm going to go through 8 things that I think you need to get started as a minimum in large format photography. So I'm going to go through them, but at the same time I'm going to investigate something I noticed when I was driving through here about a month or so ago, which was, if you can see in the background here, are these trees. Now, these trees, obviously been a fire here at some point, probably last year, and they're sort of burnt at the bottom of the trees, and it's a real striking contrast between the grass colour as it is at the moment and the dark sort of burnt condition of the bottom of the tree. So I feel that that's going to make a real interesting subject, and like I say, I always, since seeing it the other month, thought as soon as I get the opportunity I'm going to come back here and I'm going to do some close-up stuff with the 4x5 in amongst it. So that's where I'm heading. We'll see what we can find, but at the same time I'm going to go through my 8 things that I think you need to start in large format photography. So let's get into it. So of course the first thing you're going to need on your large format photography journey is of course a camera. Now there is lots and lots you can get on eBay from manufacturers that have long been gone out of business, but the one I would recommend, and I'm certainly not sponsored by them, I would definitely recommend is the Intrepid 4x5. This is the Mark IV version. They're pretty cheap, to be fair. I think I picked this one up for £350 in comparison to some of the more expensive ones out there, which can get up to a couple of grand. But this is £350. This is the Mark IV version. I think they're now on the Mark V. I would definitely recommend starting with one of these. It's very easy to use, and it's cheap. And yeah, I would recommend this. Well made. Yeah, nice bit of kit, it's light as well. Also, if you're not going to go with Intrepid and you want to look for a different camera, there's different versions of 4x5 cameras. You can get rail cameras, but this one here is what they call a field camera, which means that it folds down pretty flat and goes in a bag nice and easy. It's nice and light, so you're not really going to feel this in your camera bag. I got some great shots with this, and really, I can't recommend them enough. Really, it's great to see that a company started up and started making large format cameras. So my recommendation is pick yourself up an Intrepid 4x5 camera. I'll put a link in the description below for their website, and you can go off and have a look and see what colour bellows you want. So yeah, recommendation, start with this. Of course, the next thing you're going to need for your large format camera is a lens. Now, the one I have in my hand here is a 250mm lens. I've also got a 180mm lens, a 135mm lens, and a 90mm lens. What I would say is, when I'm just starting out, my recommendation to you would be to start with somewhere around 150mm. 150mm in 35mm terms is a nifty 50, and what you find with that is on large format photography, that is a good starting point to get most things that you want to shoot. You will get with that lens without a problem. I would recommend, if you're going to get one, obviously they don't really make these anymore. I go with Fuji, Nikon do them as well, Roland Stock. There's all sorts of different brands out there that used to make these lenses. I go with Fuji. Like I say, I've got all my lenses are Fuji, and I find that they're very good, but I also know that Nikon lenses are very good also. My recommendation is, if you're going to have to get them off eBay more often than not, when you're looking around, I go with Japanese sellers, and because they have a rating system, although the rating system actually does my head in with this excellent plus and, you know, near mint and mint plus and all that business. But what I look for when I'm looking for a lens is I make sure that whoever's selling it has got loads of photos of the lens from each different direction, so you can actually make sure that there's not massive scratches on it and bits and pieces like that. And then make sure you read the description. What you'll find in the description is it will talk about, has it got any fungus, haze, large dust elements, and that sort of thing, and obviously is it working properly as well. So as long I stay away from lenses that have got fungus or haze or large dust inside the element. But what you will find is that at the bottom every description will say some dust and what you're looking for is that the lens is fully working, is what you're looking for, and obviously that there's no large scratches or anything on the lens itself. These lenses, a 150mm lens will set you back, a decent one, probably around 350 pounds, something like that. And just bear in mind, if you are getting them from Japan, which is where I'd recommend generally getting them from, you're going to pay an import tax that is not listed on eBay, but obviously you are going to get from whoever is delivering you the lens. So it might be DHL, somebody like that, FedEx or somebody. They're going to be one charging you the import tax into the UK if you live in the UK. So just bear that in mind, that once you've spent the money, the 350 pounds, you're probably going to get somewhere in the region of 70 to 90 pounds worth of import tax on top of the money you've already spent on the lens. So just bear that in mind when you're buying a lens. And another tip I would say, just about, because I've had quite a bit of it, and I know there's a lot of it out there with DHL and FedEx, and it's not their fault, but there is a lot of people out there that are trying to pretend to be them, to scam you out of money. So just make sure that when you get that notice that comes through and says that you owe £80 or £90 or whatever for import tax, that when you get that text message through or that email through, what I then tend to do is to take the tracking number, go to their website, physically type in their website, so I know that, you know, as near as that I'm actually on their website, and then I will go from there, and I will then pay the import tax on there, rather than clicking a link that's in an email or a link that's on a text message. So just please be careful of that, because I get emails all the time saying that I owe money to FedEx, or, you know, even when I've not ordered anything. So just bear that in mind. The other thing you're going to need for your lens is one of these. You can operate the lens by just pressing the shutter button, which is down here, but this is a analog cable release, and it is definitely recommended for especially outdoor photography, but really any photography you're doing with a large format camera. These are really cheap. Get them off Amazon, and just make sure that you've got loads in the bag, because they do break quite easily, but like I say, they are super cheap. So that's your lens, that's your cable release, that's the next thing you're going to need on your list. Okay, so the next thing that you are going to need for your 4x5 camera, you've gone out and bought it, you've bought your lens, you're all set up, ready to go. What you now need is a tripod. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to have a decent tripod. I know there's lots of cheap ones, aluminium ones and stuff for sale on eBay and Amazon and things like that, and there is nothing wrong with them normally, and I have had them in the past, and I've had them for many years and never had a problem with them at all. But what you need is a tripod that is going to guarantee to be stable. You don't have to buy a brand new one, you can get a second-hand one. There's lots of different ones out there. The camera that, well, the camera I'm filming on now is sat on a three-legged thing tripod, carbon fibre, it's very stable, it's a very nice tripod. But my 4x5 camera, I use a steel frame Manfrotto tripod. This is the Manfrotto 190, and I've got the this head on top. Can't remember what they call this head now, but you're after something that has got good controls on the head, and that the legs are stable, and that if there's a bit of wind about, obviously this on your large format camera acts as a wind sail. There's a bit of wind about, all it's going to do is shake that camera, and if you're sat on a flimsy tripod, then the tripod's just not going to do anything for you. So I would recommend, yes, it's a bit of weight, but obviously your saving weight here is just invest in a decent tripod. Do your research on them. I'd stay away from a bull head for large format photography, and I'd go for something like this, which has got plenty of gears, because as you can see, you've got to work underneath this camera and get in amongst it. So yeah, a decent tripod, cannot recommend enough. When you're setting your camera up, I've said before, make sure your tripod legs are level. So if you're looking for one that's got a level plate on the actual tripod itself, which I've got, and then I've also got a level on the ball head, or the head itself. So that's my recommendation for one of these. Like I say, this is a Manfrotto 190. You don't need to get one of these. There is cheaper alternatives out there, but just stay away from the real cheap end of the market, because you do want something that is fairly weighty and is nice and rock solid for your camera to sit on. So that is the next thing on the list you need: a decent tripod. Okay, so I've just had to move back from that tree because I couldn't get, well, I was too close to the tree to get focus on it, so I've had to move myself back. And as you can see here, I've got the bellows extended pretty much right out now. And again, that just comes back to make sure you've got a sturdy tripod, because the further you've got them bellows extended, the more it's going to catch that wind and cause you issues with a moving frame. So just make sure you've got a solid tripod. So of course, the next thing on the list of things that I think you're going to need, or I would recommend getting, and it is the classic, and you can't be a large format photographer without sticking your head under one of these. This is a dark cloth. It goes over the back of the camera and you stick your head under it. You've probably seen it a million times before, but it enables you to have a dark area to focus on that ground glass at the back of your camera and just get everything focused. Now, you don't have to go out and buy a proper one of these. These can be quite expensive. I think this was £60, so it's quite expensive. You can just use a towel from home, just something to drape over your head to create a dark area inside the camera. You do not have to spend a lot of money on one. Like so, I got one because it's got these Velcro bits, and when it goes round and it's sort of stretchy at the top, and when you then put it round, it will Velcro itself to the bottom of the underside of the camera, and then I don't have to worry about holding it in place if it's a little bit windy. But like I say, you do not have to spend one of these. Intrepid have now got like a back thing that fits on the ground glass and just has got some sides just to give you a bit of darkness around it. I quite like that. It's quite a compact thing. I've not tried it yet, but I am interested in that, just to save sort of, well, it's a lot of weight, but it's just, you know, a bit of extra space in the backpack really. You could just put your hoodie over it if you want to do that. I've done that before and I've forgot one of these. So you don't have to get one of these, but you're definitely going to have something with you to be able to darken that ground glass to be able to see for your focusing. Okay, so you've got your camera set up. You've got your lens on the front, your 150mm or 135mm lens on the front. You've got your cable release attached to the front of it. You're all set up on your nice sturdy tripod. You're ready to go. You've got your dark cloth or your hoodie or your towel or whatever you're going to use, and you put over the top and you're looking at the ground glass at this beautiful scene in front of you that you're going to capture in a minute. So what you then need, and the next thing on your list is that you're going to need to help you on your journey, is just one of these, which is a loop. And again, you can get these off of Amazon or eBay, or you can get them from some photography places, shops. Quite inexpensive really. This is the 10 times loop that I use. You can use other loops, but I find the 10 times one is everything that is good enough for what I need. And what you do with this basically is, when you've got your dark cloth over the top of the camera, you then put this on the back and you're looking through the loop to make sure that you've got critical focus everywhere you need. It's just that extra check, lets you see, get in on that detail. Like when I do it in a minute, I'm going to be looking at the detail on this tree behind me and making sure through this that everything is absolutely razor sharp and that you can really see the detail in that tree behind. So yeah, the next thing, it's pretty cheap really in comparison to some of the other stuff on the list. Get yourself a loop. Okay, so next thing you're going to need on your list of things to be able to enjoy your large format photography is, of course, some way of reading the light, reading the tones as they fall onto your scene in front of you, and to know where to set your settings in relation to what film you're using, and of course what the conditions are and what sort of shutter speed you want, and all that sort of joyful stuff. So what you need to get is a digital spot meter if you are working outside or where your subject is miles and miles and miles away, because what you need to be able to do is to pick out certain bits on the landscape to take your scene. Now, there's lots of different versions of these. The one I would recommend is a Pentax. They do a digital spot meter which will set you anywhere between £400 and £500, which is a ridiculous amount of money for the digital spot meter. Or they do the earlier model, which is the Pentax spot meter. This one is the Mark V, which is more analog than obviously the digital one, and works just as well. And you can pick these up for about £180, something like that. Now, if you're on a budget, you don't have to start with one of these. I did not start with one of these. I went for at least a year and a half without one of these. You can actually download apps on your phone. I've got one on my light phone. I think it's called Light Meter 3 or something. And I do use that with my medium format camera sometimes, and I might use it with this still sometimes. If I'm just come out and I haven't got a lot of stuff with me and I've got a smaller bag or something like that, I might leave this at home and just use my phone. If I'm doing city photography with my medium format camera, I will literally take my medium format camera, roller film in it, and my iPhone, and I would just literally use my iPhone to meter the scene and go with the settings that it gives me. So there's lots of them out there. If you type in light meter into your app store, it will come up with lots of different options, and you just go from there. So you don't have to get one of these to start. What you will find is, as you progress and as you enjoy the photography more and you want to get more precise with what you're doing, you will naturally end up with one of these or something similar anyway. But like I say, if you're going to go straight in with one of these, I would recommend getting the Pentax Spot Meter 5 and just stay away from the digital one for the moment, because it is way too expensive for what it is, and this does exactly the same thing. So my recommendation is go with one of these. If you don't want to stretch to this, then just download an app and go with that. You'll be more than happy with the app, so just go with that. But like I say, later on you will be looking at getting one of these. I can absolutely guarantee it. So that's the next thing on the list, some sort of light meter. Okay, so while I was waiting for the sun to come out, I just thought I'd take you through my metering and what I'm looking at on this one. So what I've gone for is the unburnt part of the tree up here. I've looked to put that on sort of middle tone to middle grey sort of colour, and then metered for the darker areas, which are the burnt bits down here. That difference there is about 1 stop, and then what I've done is I've metered for the grass being the lightest part of the scene, which is about a difference of 1 stop between that. So all in all, I've only really got about 2 stops of dynamic range difference between the darkest area and the lightest area of the grass, because like I say, I've not taken into account the sky, because I don't have to worry about it. This is not in my shot. So that's how I've metered, and I'm going to go with f8 to give me about 15th of a second. Now, if the sun does come out, which I'm hoping it does, there is some gaps in the cloud up there, I will have to meter again, because obviously what it's going to do is put some light onto this, and mainly the lighter areas might get a bit lighter, so I might just have to reevaluate then if the sun does come out. But for now, it's f8 and 15th of a second, so that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, so you've got your camera set up on your sturdy tripod, you've got your lens in place, you've got your cable release on, everything is hunky-dory. You've metered your scene, you know what settings you've got it dialed into the camera, which I haven't yet, so I'm just going to set them now. So we got f8, which I know I'm on, and 15th of a second. Make sure the blade is shut when it is. Let's go for a bit of a test shot. All working fine. So the next item that you're going to need, if I just put that down there, is of course some of these, which are film holders, somewhere that you're going to keep your film in the dark and transport them, and obviously make sure that they stay light tight until you get them developed. So what I have here is a Toyo film holder. I actually got 2 of these from Intrepid. They are quite expensive on their website. I think these are about £100+ on their website. You can actually get them cheaper on eBay, or what you find is that you can get sort of a set of 5, say, for the same price on eBay. But obviously you are dealing with older ones, and which have potentially got some issues, like these could suffer light leaks and things like that. So I would recommend, again, if you're going to go to Japan, to get yours. No problem with that. In fact, I prefer getting them from Japan, because I generally think that their descriptions are very accurate and they're very honest about what condition things are in. So when you're checking them, make sure again that you're looking for something that's mint, and just read the description. Make sure that there's, you know, it probably won't say if there's any light leaks or not, but what you are looking for is just to make sure that, you know, the actual holder bit, which is this bit on top and actually sits where the film sits behind, is in good order, and that, you know, it's not damaged on the sides or on the bottom or anything like that. So generally, like I say, these are a massively important bit of kit, and you're not going to be able to do large format photography without a set of these. These hold 2 films each, 1 on each side. Generally speaking, best practice is probably, like when I take this shot, is to take the same shot twice. So one side, flip it around, take another shot on the other side. So you've got almost 2 identical shots. So if you have a problem, if there is a light leak on one of them, then you've got the other one as a backup, or you have a development error or whatever it might be, a big scratch down it, or whatever other joyful things you get from shooting film photography like this. You've got a backup, just in case. So I don't always shoot 2. Sometimes it depends on how many film I've brought out, and of course film is mega expensive at the moment. I've got black and white Delta 100 in here, but if you were talking about a portrait, you're looking at anything from sort of £80 upwards now, so that's £8 a sheet. So I generally try to thin my shots out to make to get more shots out of what I've got. So I've got 5 of these, which enables 10 shots in any one day. If you want to do more shots in a day, then you're gonna have to bring your film with you and a dark bag, which I'll talk about in a bit. But the next thing on the list is a definite, is some film holders. Again, if you're looking to start out, maybe get them from Intrepid, because you've got good customer service. If there's any issues with them, generally these are like brand new. So yeah, very good condition from Intrepid. So it might be worth just sticking with them with your first ones, and then venture out into the eBay marketplace if you want to add to your collection. But for the moment, one of these, or what I would recommend, is getting at least 2, so you've got 4 shots when you come out, because you'll find that 2 shots isn't enough for what you're trying to do. So yeah, definitely going to need some of these. So these are the next thing on the list. Okay, so finally, some of you might say that have been watching the channel for a while and are used to me just doing purely photography. I'm going to take my first shot of this beautiful scene. I've been talking about it for long enough, but I do want to try and talk through what I think you need when you're just starting out in photography. So please forgive me for the guys that are used to watching this and just talking about photography, but it is nice when people are asking me questions about what my setup is and what I would recommend. So I thought I'd do a bit of a video on what the bare minimum would be to starting this amazing hobby. So let's take this first shot. Like I said, I've already metered the scene. I've got Delta 100, like I say, f8, 15th per second. Here we go. That's it. First one in the bag. Now, what I'm going to do with this, make sure that that's pointing outwards. Make sure that that's clean. These were the film holders that got absolutely soaked the other week on the beach. So I'm still suffering with salt, unfortunately. As I've got 10 sheets of this today, I'm going to take 2 sheets in this location just in case there's an issue. So let's get this second one taken, same settings. It's be nice to have a bit of sun, but there's a massive bank of cloud behind me. So let's take this next shot. That's it, second shot in the bag. So although it's taken me ages, I'm really pleased with that setup. Took time just to make sure that I got composition right and something I was happy with. So hopefully these shots come out. I'm going to put that back in there. That's it. So I'm going to get packed up from this location and just keep on having a wander around and see if I find any more trees that I could take some a bit more sort of close-up style shots that I've got here. I haven't really taken many close-up shots with this camera before, so I'm really excited about doing this today. So let's get on, I'll get this packed up, and then we'll get walking and see what else we can find. Okay, so the next thing you are going to need for your large format photography is some sort of viewfinder app or way of be able to see your scene before you set your camera up. You can just set your camera up and sort of look through the ground glass and go from there and move the camera about to how you want it. But you'll find that you'll get quite fed up of that quite quickly. So what I would recommend is going on, again, the App Store for your iPhone or your Android or whatever system you're using, and just type in Viewfinder app or something like that, Viewfinder, camera Viewfinder, something. I use the Mark's Viewfinder 2 or Mark 2 Viewfinder, whichever way around it is, and this is really handy because you can set your cameras up. So I've got my 4x5 up. You can put all your lenses in that you've got, and then you can basically use this to see what your camera is going to see from different levels, and really just leave your camera to one side and just walk around and get the best composition in the easiest possible way, which is definitely one of these camera apps. So definitely recommend this. Again, I'll put this in the description below if you want to check this one out. It is a paid for app. I think there is free apps out there as well, but like I say, this is the one I use. I'll put it in the description below. But that is the next thing on the list, Viewfinder app for your camera. Okay, so I've got another shot lined up here, a bit similar to the first one, to be honest, but again, we've got these nicely charred trees, and this one here has got like a V in it where there's a growth coming off of it, or was. It's now dead, I'm guessing, and I'm quite liking that. And again, just a detail in the tree, and I'm literally going to shoot right for the middle of it, focusing on the tree itself and letting everything else in the background fall off into the distance. So that's shot number one. The next shot is just down here, and what we've got, although you won't be able to see it, is like a tree down there which has obviously been burnt and fallen over, and you've got like all of this real interesting detail of the old tree coming up, the old bark, I'm guessing it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put the tripod right up and then point the camera right down on top of it and see if I can get a shot from looking straight down on it. And when I get to that shot, what I'll do is I'll point the camera at it so you can see. But that's the next shot on the list after this one here. So like I say, on this one I'm going to focus on this tree here and let everything else in the distance fall off. What I'm quite liking is just the grasses in the distance, just like I said before, really help separate the tree from everything else, because there is such a contrast between the black of the burnt tree and the lightness of the grasses. It's just beautiful. So I'm going to get on and focus this now. I'm going to go with f8 again and just remeet around the scene. It's probably going to be very similar to what I took over there, and then we'll get this shot taken, and we'll move on to this one down here, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, I'm going to get this one taken, and we'll see what it turns out like. Okay, so we're all set up here, nicely focused in, like I say, on the immediate tree here, with hopefully everything else behind it falling off. I've gone with f8 and a third, giving me 15th of a second. Like I say, it was f8 over there and 15th of a second on the other shot, so something very similar. Again, we've only really got a couple of stops of dynamic range that we're playing with here, so just to make sure that everything's shut, which it is, I'll just do a test shot. Everything's working fine. Let's put that there. Let's take this out. Okay, don't need to shield the lens this time round because the sun is well behind the cloud at this moment in time. That's it, first shot taken. Let's flip that around to make sure that I know that it's been taken. Close that off. So what I'm going to do now is just take a second shot, like I say, just to make sure that that I've definitely got the shot and there's no issues. And then for my last shot, I'm going to move on to this this bit down here, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So I'll just do a test shot again, exactly the same settings, all working fine. Let's take the dark slide out. And let's take the shot. That's it, second shot taken, or fourth for the day I should say. Just pull that across, make sure it's locked, which it is. Okay, so that's the second film holder full. So get these back in the bag and I'm going to reset up here and then I'll show you what I'm looking at. Okay, so this is the scene that I've found, and I'll show you the camera setup in a minute, but it's bit of a difficult one because I'm not quite tall enough. Again, with the 250mm lens, trying to get this close to this and get it focused is quite difficult. But what I'm liking is the fact that they just have these couple of little pine cones in here, and like I say, these sort of shattered bits of bark from where it's obviously been burnt, and just the grass growing in it, and obviously the new life that's coming in there, and some of the old sort of, you know, yellowish grass there. I just like that scene. So I'm going to try this and just take a couple of shots. I don't really do much close work with my 4x5. I've done a couple of shots in the past. One of the railway carriage was the last one. But I'm going to try this now and just see what I can get. But like I say, I'll show you the setup in a minute. I've got to have the tripod sort of extended upwards, and I'm on tiptoes to try and get it focused, but I think I've managed to do it, at least I'm hoping to. But I'm going to open the lens up and shoot sort of f32, something like that, just to make sure that I get all of this in focus, because I'm not really bothered about having anything out of focus there, because I'm literally just looking at this small area here, which I'm quite liking. So yeah, I'm going to take this now, and yeah, I'll show you the setup and get this metered, and hopefully this comes out. Okay, so I hope you can see that this is an interesting sort of setup that I've got going on here. So as you can see, I've got the tripod sort of right out, extended, and even the extension bit gone as well, and then I've got the bellows at maximum extension here, or at least there's a tiny bit left on them to go, and I'm literally just pointing straight down at this. So this is quite an interesting scene. Like I say, I don't really do any close focusing work with this, so I'm going to get on and meter this now. And sort of metering wise, it should be fairly straightforward. There's not much dynamic range in this scene as it stands, so I'm going to get on and just meter this. $12 1/3 is sort of what I would call mid-tone. Let's see where the darks are. So EV a 9. Oh, that's a bit too dark. I'm going to have to pull that back. That's where I want the detail. Let's just do that again. 11 2/3. Okay, that's fine. I might just pull that around a bit more because that's the lightest part. See where the acorn is. 11. 11. 9. So sort of EV wise, we're looking anywhere between sort of 9 and 11 2/3 as an EV reading on this. So just looking at the settings we've got, if I shoot f8 again, it's going to give me 15th of a second, which is the theme of the day, I think. So I think I'm going to go with f8 15th of a second, and fingers crossed these come out. I'll put them up anyway, even though what I'm going to do is take 2 shots here on this. So let's just get this set up just in case I have any issues. 15th of a second, f8, close that up, make sure it's closed. It is. I'll just do a test shot. That all seems to be working fine. Make sure this grass is out of the way, because I've actually stood on some and put some into the frame, which wasn't there before. I'll just clear it of any grass that I've introduced. Okay, here we go. Last 2 shots. Be delicate with this. There we go. Cut the shutter. Take the first slide out. Let's take this first shot. That's the first one in the bag. I'm not hugely confident about these, I'm going to be honest, but I'm hopeful. that they'll come out, because I quite like this shot. It's quite a pretty little scene, detailed, intricate little scene. Cut the shutter, take the slide out, take this. That's it, last shot in the bag. Right, I'm going to get packed up now. I've taken 6 shots today, and once I'm packed up, I'll go through the last couple of items that you need to be able to, well, in my view, to be able to get started in large format photography. So for now, I'm going to get packed up, and I'll see you shortly for the last couple of bits. Okay, so the last thing that I think you need to complete your kit to be able to go out and do your hobby of large format photography is going to be a dark bag. And a dark bag is somewhere where you put your hands into, and it is a completely dark space where you can load your film and unload your film, put it into developing reels. And you can either get a dark bag, which is what I've got, or you can get a dark tent, which is a little tent structure you put your arms into, and again it's completely dark inside. You don't have to use them. If you've got a room in your house or somewhere that you can go which is completely and utterly dark with absolutely no light whatsoever, then you can just go and sit there and do it. But any little bit of light that comes in is going to have an effect on your film, so it needs to be completely pitch black. Little tip for you when you're using a dark bag and loading your film is making sure that you take your watch off, because again, if you put your hands in and your watch goes off, then it's going to illuminate the bag, and then that's game over at that point. So that is the last tip. I have got a bit of a bonus tip for you about film, but I will explain that in a minute. Okay, so the very last tip that I've got for you for today, and the bonus tip, and it is about film. Now, when starting off with large format photography, you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. You're going to have some visits where you go out and you think you've got an amazing shot, and then something will go wrong, either the focus or the developing, or you've got a light leak. There's many different things that can go wrong with large format photography. So what I would recommend is, when you're first starting off, is try a cheap black and white film. I would recommend something like a Froma Pan 400, and I'd go with a 400 speed film because it's that bit quicker, and generally is sort of middle of the road, will give you good sharp images, but then give you that little bit of buffer to be able to, you know, if you might get into pushing film or pulling film, so you could pull it to 200 or push it to 800 or 1600 if you need something a bit quicker. So I would start with that, because generally, I can't remember how many you actually get in a box, but for 25 quid, I think you might get like 50 sheets or something like that. So it is a very cheap film to start with. So I would recommend starting with that, and then branching out into other films, more expensive films, after you've mastered that. So yeah, that is my last tip for you. And if you've enjoyed this video, then please leave a like on it. It really helps me out massively. And if you're liking the channel and the content I'm creating, and please subscribe to the channel, because again, it really helps me out. I really love doing these videos, and this is probably my favorite place at the moment, Wareham Forest. So yeah, again, if you live nearby, I'd recommend coming here, definitely. But yeah, from here it's goodbye, and I shall see you guys in the next one, and I hope you enjoyed the videos. Have a good one.